Today, oil prices climb over $100 a barrel, one of the largest one-day jumps in history.
Plus, stagflation fears rise as the energy shock meets a weak US employment report.
And stock markets tumble around the world on Monday as investors seek dollar cash. This is Reuters Morning Bid, bringing you unfiltered market news and analysis straight from the Reuters newsroom 7 days a week. I'm Amanda Cooper in London.
And I'm Mike Dolan. It's Monday, March 9th.
Well, here we are, 1 week into the conflict in the Middle East, and the word oil shock is starting to crop up everywhere. Brent's hit $100 a barrel, WTI $100 a barrel. That was sort of the number that everybody was talking about as marking the problem point for markets, right?
Yeah, triple-digit oil. It's a thing. I think the thing that strikes me most about today's move, and it's a huge move. It's one of the biggest one-day jumps in oil prices ever. And it's one of the key things about it is that people use the word oil shock, I think, repeatedly in markets, and often it's overused. Another phrase that's also overused is a thing called stagflation, which means, slow or no growth, coupled with a inflation spur or a rise in inflation. And the combination of the two is a problem. I think today we're dealing with both of them up close and personal. The oil price rise in particular is extraordinary. And I think, as we talked about all through last week, for markets at least, this is all about the duration of this conflict, duration of this supply shock. And we're into the second week of this, and there's very little sign of this conflict ending. And of course, the big news overnight was that Iran has appointed a new supreme leader. He's the son of Ali Khamenei, who was killed in the first round of attacks last weekend. And he's considered a hardliner within the Iranian government. So very little sign with that appointment that they're about to back down, and that this conflict in some ways will get wrapped up in any time that we can think of here.
Well, exactly. And I mean, if you compare it to the last time we bandied around the world the word oil shock, which was when Russia invaded Ukraine in early 2022, if you take a look at what happened to markets 1 week in, oil rallied 16% in that time, which was already fairly eye-popping, so looking like it's going parabolic. This time, 1 week in, it's up 50% in a week. And if you look at natural gas prices, 70, 80% in a week. It's not meaning it's not just oil that we need to be thinking about, right? Like, this ripples across through to everything.
And I think a crux about the length of time this will take, it came from President Trump himself last night, who said that this is a price worth paying, essentially, for peace and security in the US and around the world. So he's not minded to change his strategy, at least not publicly, just simply because the oil price is rising, which is a signal to markets too that this could go on for a long time, and he will face down what's likely to be quite a bruising hit to US consumers, certainly at the gas pumps. You've seen US gas pump prices are now about close to $3.50, at least the average, and that was below $3 just before the conflict started. So this is going to hit very quickly to consumers, and it's going to hit businesses. And of course, the other thing about the duration of the conflict is that people look out through the futures curves through oil, which often suggests that very high prices today come down very quickly, or at least within 3 to 6 months. Those longer-term oil prices are now starting to rise. So this is where it starts to hurt economically. Anybody trying to plan for their end of the year, for example, or for next winter, never mind just filling your auto on the forecourts today, then it's going to hurt.
Well, exactly. And not just there. If you think like global bond markets selling off aggressively again today, we've seen Treasury yields spiking higher. I mean, that's got implications for things like mortgage rates, credit card rates, anything that has a loan attached to it, right? Like, just see increases in everything across the board.
Yeah, and I think it's extraordinary to see Friday's employment report, seeing that such a surprising drop in payrolls and a tick up in the unemployment rate, and then to see Treasury yields rising. So normally you would have thought that would have flagged potential slowdown in the economy, potential recession, and in fact, it's the oil price that's dominant. But we have this idea, stagflation, which is a phrase that sounds like a wonky phrase, but it crops up often. As I said, sometimes it's overused in markets and it never really occurs. But I think here we are looking at those scenarios. When we get big inflation updates this week, which will give us an indication of just how hot inflation was before this conflict took over, never mind what's going to happen afterwards.
Right, so with that in mind, we've got stocks, sea of red so far today, bonds getting hammered again, even gold sort of not quite behaving as the safe haven that you might expect it to be. So where are people putting their money?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, I think there's no doubt that this is bad news for global stock markets. It's bad news for the world economy. And as you can imagine, the countries that are most exposed to importing oil, particularly oil from the Middle East, which is many of the big Asian nations, then clearly that's where it's going to hurt most. You can see the Nikkei in Japan was down about 5 or 6%. The Kospi, which has been on a roller coaster for the last couple of weeks, is down about 6% as well. These are the economies that really need that Middle East crude, and it's not coming out right now, and it's coming out at a very expensive price. But where do people bring their money? It's not gold, or at least not gold since this conflict took off. It is down again today. I think people are worried mostly about liquidity, in other words, being able to access cash. And that's where the dollar is benefiting probably most. Just dollar cash, because it's ubiquitous around the world, is a place where you can move it and get it away from anything else, and any geographically as well as from other assets quite quickly. And gold is actually flubbing its lines slightly. There is a worry that a lot of gold transportation goes through the Middle East and Dubai in particular, and because of a hiatus in aviation and flights in and out of there, there's very little getting in and out of Dubai at the moment, then perhaps that's affecting kind of the supply of physical gold.
For today's recommended read, check out Clyde Russell's column on how an oil shock could spread around the world. The link for that is in the show notes.
And for more of any of today's stories, head to Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Follow us on your favorite podcast player, and if you're on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest market news from Reuters 7 days a week.
We'll be back tomorrow.